Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Benson. I'm here at Outpost Clatsop. We just came off the field after fighting Colonel Bishop's Confederate forces, and I'm going to go through an expedited field cleaning of a Colt 1860 and loading of the pistol for the next battle. Okay, first thing you need to do is you need to pop your wedge, knock everything off the table, your table, pull the barrel, pull the cylinder. I don't necessarily worry about the chambers on the cylinder, but I will run the brush through the center bore for the cylinder pin, because you'll get a lot of buildup on that. Just blow by from the black powder, and I'll run it up the bore of my pistol and the other end of the cylinder pin where it goes into the base of the barrel. I'll take, for today, I've got a can of hops gun cleaner, and I'll wipe down the cylinder pin. As you see, it's all blow by from the pistols. Black powder, as most of you will know, is a pretty dirty powder to shoot. Just kind of wipe everything down, wipe the face of the hammer, and where the hammer rides into the back of the frame. You'll get a lot of black powder buildup in there too, and if you get enough, you may have an issue with the pistol firing. You may not come forward far enough to strike the back of the cap, and it's also a good time to check to make sure no spent caps have fallen down between the hammer and the frame or down into the works of the pistol. After you do that, you should give everything a quick wipe down again. Spray a clean spot. A lot of this is just, as we all know, black powder is very corrosive, and it's just to help stave off corrosion. We're down here on the Oregon coast, and it's a very humid environment. I know we're probably sitting about 60–70% humidity down here right now on a cloudy day, and at times it will definitely exceed that. But you want to make sure you get all your working parts and the barrel and the cylinder, because that's where you'll get most of your rust. You don't necessarily concerned about going down the bore, because in a couple hours I'm going to be firing this pistol again. After that, I'll spray the cylinder pin. Make sure help the pistol function better. And then reassemble the barrel. Put the wedge back in. Make sure you tap it in. One of the things people have problems with sometimes, if you don't get that wedge in far enough, the cylinder, or the barrel will be far enough forward that when the hammer strikes the back of the cap, it pushes the hammer or the cylinder forward, and it won't go off. So it is very important to make sure you seat that firing pin or wedge in, but not too far. This one just a little bit. You kind of have to finesse it. You want the cylinder to spin freely, but you don't want a lot of play back and forth on the cylinder. Now we're going to go into loading the pistol. So I have a 25 grain spout, and I'm going to go around, put my pistol at half cock, and load each cylinder. So I take my finger, put it over the end, use my thumb to press the release to open it up, and you make sure that you release the thumb button here before you bring the powder back up, or you'll have an empty spout, and when you go to shoot, you're going to end up with a little bit of blackness around the edge of the cream of wheat, but it won't go off, and that's usually a sign that you didn't put powder in, or your powder was compromised, had gotten wet. Once black powder gets wet, it's done. You can't reconstitute it. You only have to, all you can do is just dig it out and start over again. And then I make sure that I didn't get distracted, and then I got powder in all 6 cylinders. Then I put my finger around into the barrel, and I pour cream of wheat. Everybody has it. There's several different techniques. Some people will put it in each individual cylinder. Some people use actually loaded paper cartridges that have cream of wheat and black powder in them. But I found this is the quickest way. You go around, fill each cylinder, and you're gonna, I usually count to myself as I go around, and compress every cylinder once, and then you can tell when you go around the second time that it doesn't go as far down. But the tighter you can pack that cream of wheat, the better report you're going to get from your pistol. And our whole goal is to make more noise in the infantry. So I missed one here because it went just slightly. There it goes. Now I take and I pour the remains of the cream of wheat back down the barrel. I'm using a creamer jug. We go through a lot of cream of wheat. It's kind of hard when this is a loading point for the entire company, so it's kind of hard to have any real period container to keep your cream of wheat in. And it just you could wrap it with a cloth to hide most of it, but once we're done loading, we just put it back away. So now I've got my pistol loaded. The last step is to cap your pistol. I found that, and this is just a kind of a rule of thumb, that most of the 45 caliber pistols, or 44 caliber, Remington or Colt, take number 11. The number 11 cap works the best on it. So I slightly pinch it to deform it to help it fit on the cylinder, and go around and cap each cylinder. It's important that you do this step last, because if you're putting powder in, and once you put powder in, if that cap's in there, it can, if there was an accident, it could go off. So you definitely want to wait till the last. This is your last step. Okay, now that I've got all 6 cylinders capped, I'm going to ease the hammer forward. If you let it slide, it's going to go off. So you ease the hammer forward, and you use a little thumb pressure, go to the next cylinder, and what you're doing is you're seating the cap. If you don't do this step, the pistol might not go off the first time you fire it. And so if your pistol doesn't go off the first time, go all the way around, and this one has a little nipple on the back of the cylinder that matches a hole in the hammer, and so it's now in a double safety, because the bolts come up and lock the cylinder, and the hammer locks the cylinder so it can't rotate. But if your pistol doesn't go off, especially when if you have multiple cylinders that don't go off, make sure you've gone around. I usually try hitting each hammer or each cap twice, and if it still doesn't go off, what I'll do is I'm going to pull the hammer back and look down in here on the back of the face of the hammer, and look here in the back of the frame, and make sure that there's not a cap, an expanded cap flattened in there, because that is enough to keep it from firing. Sometimes you can get your finger to flick them out. If you have a nipple, if you ride with a nipple pick, you can grab the nipple pick, because they'll come right out. But you got to get that expanded cap out of there, or the pistol will not fire. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's my quick and down and dirty on cleaning and reloading a Colt 1860.